My mother-in-law was reborn, and she forced my husband, Zhao Hanzhou, to divorce me. She knew that in a year's time, her son would become a favored figure by the new emperor's side for his meritorious service in protecting the throne. Grasping the hand of Xin Baoying, the daughter of a disgraced minister, she smiled with absolute certainty. It won't be long before your Xin family regains its former glory. I watched you grow up, and Hanzhou has always wanted to welcome you into our home. She rolled her eyes at me again. You're just trash from a lowly family. If you know what's good for you, pack your things and get out. I smiled and turned to leave. She didn't know that in my past life, I was the one who saved the new emperor's life. Yet he used the principle of a husband's authority over his wife as an excuse to promote Zhao Hanzhou to unprecedented heights. If everyone thinks I'm useless, then I don't want Zhao Hanzhou, and I won't save the new emperor either. Following my memory, I walked along the old mansion's corridor to the front hall. Before I crossed the threshold, I heard my mother-in-law's laughter from within. My dear Inger, you're so thoughtful, filial, and sensible, always remembering this old woman. No wonder Hanzhou has never stopped thinking of you. Xin Baoying blushed, playfully shaking her mother-in-law's arm, her demeanor that of a young daughter. I've always regarded you as my mother, though I'm afraid I never had the fortune to be truly blessed. Brother Hanzhou is also very kind, but we simply weren't meant to be. Her voice grew softer and softer, tinged with faint sobs. Her mother-in-law felt deeply pained, patting Xin Baoying's hand and pulling her down to sit. How could you say you weren't meant to be? Your fate together is still unfolding. Her words carried a hint of warmth as she gazed at Xin Baoying with a meaningful smile. Xin Baoying fell silent for a moment, her other hand, hidden within her sleeve, tightening. So you mean Brother Hanzhou intends to take a concubine? The Xin family had chosen the wrong side in the succession struggle. Though they still resided in the capital, they held no official positions. Their once equal match, their childhood sweethearts, had been torn apart by her mother-in-law's interference, forcing them apart. Given her current status, becoming Zhao Hanzhou's concubine wouldn't be too much of a hardship. But Brother Hanzhou has only been married a year. How could Lady Xia possibly agree? Seeing Xin Baoying hadn't refused, the mother-in-law nodded with satisfaction. What concubine? I watched you grow up. Hanzhou's wife can only be you. In a past life. Cough. Who knows, perhaps we were family then. As for that Xia woman, married for a year already, and she hasn't even borne him a son or daughter. Bottom line, she's useless. Don't mind the gossip outside. Soon enough, your Xin family will regain its former glory, and your father will be reinstated. My Hanzhou, only you are worthy of him. Xin Baoying lifted her head in surprise, her eyes sparkling. Is everything the old madam said true? Is it because Brother Hanzhou spoke well of my father in court? Having heard enough from outside the door, I stepped inside. The moment she saw me, the mother-in-law's face darkened, her tone laced with sarcasm. You're just trash from a lowly family, yet you dare cling to my son's legitimate wife's position. If you had any sense of self-awareness, you'd pack your things and get out of the Zhao residence right now. I didn't respond, merely standing quietly to the side, coldly appraising my mother-in-law. I never imagined she had reincarnated too. In my previous life, Zhao Hanzhou could never let go of Xin Baoying. After gaining the new emperor's favor, he spared no effort in paving the way for the Xin family, finally securing Xin Baoying's father's reinstatement as a deputy minister of works. Once the Xins returned to court, my mother-in-law looked down on me, the daughter of a garrison commander. Though my father held a fifth-rank official position, the Zhao family despised my ancestors as mud-legged peasants, deeming them inferior to Xin Baoying's father, who had entered officialdom through the imperial examinations. By then, Xin Baoying was already of marriageable age. Zhao Hanzhou, citing my inability to bear children, brought her into the household as his prized concubine. When my father was assigned to a provincial post, they confined me to a remote courtyard, leaving me to fend for myself. As I lay dying, Zhao Hanzhou brought Xin Baoying to see me. Xin Baoying covered her mouth, her face twisted with disgust. My sister is in such a pitiful state. It's my fault. Lately I've been preoccupied with Brother Hanzhou's promotion and urging Ruer's studies, completely forgetting about you. You don't blame me, do you? Zhao Hanzhou leaned close and hissed venomously into my ear, "A mere woman, even if she saved the emperor, what does it matter? The emperor still only promotes me. And you won't even let Baoying be a co-wife, condemning my ru'er to be a mere illegitimate son. But it's all about to end. Once you're dead, I'll make Baoying my official wife." The rage overwhelmed me. I couldn't catch my breath and lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I had reborn before the incident where I saved the emperor. I resolved to leave the Zhao household swiftly and plot my revenge. But I knew Zhao Hanzhou and my mother-in-law wouldn't yield easily. I braced myself for a brutal ordeal, only to discover my mother-in-law had also been reborn. Watching her clasp Shen Baoying's hand tightly while glaring at me with disgust, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. What a twist of fate! I forced down the smile tugging at my lips and adopted a disapproving expression. I understand mother favors sister Shen, but our dynasty's laws state, within 3 years of marriage, taking a concubine requires the wife's consent. And I refuse. My mother-in-law released Shen Baoying and slammed her hand on the table, leaping to her feet. She pointed at me, ready to retort, when Zhao Hanzhou hurried in. "Mother, you urgently summoned me back. What has happened?" Seeing her son return, the wrinkles on the mother-in-law's face broke into a smile. She quickly pulled Zhao Hanzhou toward her and handed Shen Baoying's hand over. Shen Baoying shyly lowered her head, allowing the mother-in-law to lead her like a docile little rabbit. Zhao Hanzhou froze for a moment, glancing nervously at me standing nearby. "Yun, I." His mother patted Zhao Hanzhou's arm. "What's there to look at? She's just a lowly commoner. Her father's a useless garrison commander. Once he heads to the battlefield in a few years, who knows if he'll even come back alive." She turned her gaze back to Shen Baoying. After all, childhood sweethearts who know each other inside out are the most compatible. "I've decided, you and Hanzhou will live happily together from now on. Give me a big, healthy grandson. I've even thought of a name, ru'er." Zhao Hanzhou's shocked eyes flashed with delight. Forgetting whether I consented, he seized Shen Baoying's hand. "Making Baoying your concubine is too much of an insult." His mother-in-law gave him another reproachful pat. "Of course she can't be a concubine. You must marry Inger back with a grand palanquin procession." "What?" Zhao Hanzhou hastily withdrew his hand, stammering, "Mother, what are you saying? I already have a wife. How could I possibly marry Baoying with a palanquin? Besides," he stole a glance at me, lowering his voice. "What about your father-in-law?" I sneered, watching him suppress his desires for the sake of his career, afraid to make a move. My father and Zhao Hanzhou's immediate superior were very close. That official also showed Zhao Hanzhou much favor out of respect for my father. But Zhao Hanzhou had no gratitude whatsoever. After being heavily relied upon by the new emperor in his previous life, he turned around and suppressed my father and the superior who had recognized his talent. He claimed, had they not been selfish and unwilling to recommend me to his majesty, I would have earned imperial favor long ago and achieved great deeds. My father's exile to a remote post was undoubtedly orchestrated by Zhao Hanzhou. Yet the Zhao Hanzhou of today was not yet that triumphant court favorite. He still relied on my father's influence. His mother-in-law pulled Zhao Hanzhou aside. In their whispered conversation, I caught the words "save the emperor" and "promotion." Zhao Hanzhou's eyes grew brighter and brighter. His body trembled slightly as he swallowed repeatedly. "Mother, are you telling the truth?" His mother-in-law nodded emphatically. "I don't know if it was the Buddha manifesting, but I had a dream. The concubine of the Minister of Rights will bear a daughter. And just days ago, the floods in Jiangnan." Zhao Hanzhou cared little about what the concubine would bear. But the Jiangnan floods had only just begun, news he'd heard today. The court hadn't reached a conclusion yet, and his mother certainly shouldn't have known about it. Zhao Hanzhou believed her. Without another glance at me, he leapt excitedly before Shen Baoying and embraced her tightly. "I knew it! Nothing can stand between our fate." This sudden move startled Shen Baoying, but she quickly recovered, trembling as she opened her arms and wrapped them around Zhao Hanzhou's waist. "Brother Hanzhou, you are the only one in my heart." The mother-in-law stood nearby, wiping her eyes with a look of deep satisfaction. When she turned to look at me, her chin lifted haughtily. I will have Hanzhou give you a letter of divorce immediately. Pack your things and leave at once. I curved my lips slightly. In my previous life, the new emperor had been attacked by assassins loyal to the deposed crown prince while traveling incognito outside the palace. I happened to pass by and, disregarding the hail of swords, spears, and arrows, pulled the blood-soaked emperor onto my carriage before ordering the driver to flee swiftly. Those assassins, seeking stealth, hadn't prepared horses, which allowed us to escape. Later, the new emperor privately sent word to me. He forbade me from revealing his unauthorized palace exit that day. Yet, a month later at the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet, he specially permitted Zhao Hanzhou, a mere 6th-rank official, to attend with his family. That day, news spread throughout the palace that the new emperor had been assassinated, and Zhao Hanzhou had shielded him, saving his life. Even if my mother-in-law were reborn, she wouldn't understand the truth of that day. Much less could she know that it was I, not her precious son, who saved the new emperor. The play was nearly over. Now it was my turn to perform. I stepped forward, tore apart the two still clinging to each other, and slapped Zhao Hanzhou across the face. My voice cracked with fury. So this is it, Zhao Hanzhou. You harbor such vile thoughts. I've been married to you for barely a year, managing every household matter without a moment's slack, and you dare dream of divorcing me to take another wife. Today I'll go to the imperial city and strike the drum of public complaints, letting the whole world judge me. Zhao Hanzhou clutched his face, his eyes bulging with fury. Xia Yun, how dare you strike me? We'll divorce. He knew he couldn't truly divorce me, so he settled for this compromise. My mother-in-law was heartbroken and rushed over to slap me. But my father was a garrison commander, and I'd grown up playing with swords and spears. Dodging her hand was effortless. Instead, she stumbled and nearly fell. Pointing at me, she began screaming, her mouth spewing filthy curses. I shook my slightly numb hand and sent someone to fetch my father. Adjusting the hairpin on my head, I sneered, "Divorce? Don't even think about it. I am Zhao Hanzhou's wife. Not only will I not divorce you within 3 years, but I forbid you from taking a concubine. If you adore her so much, keep her outside. After 3 years, have her carried in through the back door in a sedan chair." My contemptuous gaze left Shenbaoying flushed with shame and fury. She sobbed, throwing herself into Zhao Hanzhou's embrace. "Brother Hanzhou, my parents would never consent to me becoming a concubine. You can't let me suffer this humiliation." Hearing from her mother-in-law that father might regain his official position, Shenbaoying immediately seized the chance to make demands. Ignoring the pain in his face, Zhao Hanzhou embraced Shenbaoying and began soothing her. Right before my eyes, Zhao Hanzhou swore an oath that he would marry her. Shenbaoying flashed a smile, her eyes challenging mine. Zhao Hanzhou began listing my crimes: disrespecting elders, failing to honor my husband, gossiping incessantly, being overly jealous. The list went on. "Xia Yun, you're being utterly unreasonable and tiresome. What exactly will it take for you to agree to a divorce?" Finally, he got to the point. I recalled Zhao Hanzhou's salary and the Zhao family's current accounts, holding up one finger. Zhao Hanzhou visibly relaxed. "Only 100 taels? I'll have the treasury fetch it immediately." I snorted derisively. "What were you thinking? 10,000 taels." At that figure, Zhao Hanzhou's face turned ashen. My mother-in-law's eyes widened in shock, letting out a sharp "ah." 10,000 taels. "Xia Yun, you little slut, are you trying to kill us? You're worth 10,000 taels? I calmly stepped back 2 paces, avoiding the spray of spittle. 10,000 taels. Not a single tael less. We'll just keep this up. I can afford to wait. The question is, can Miss Shen? Zhao Hanzhou's current salary was 60 taels of silver annually, 200 hu of rice allowance, plus occasional gifts from noble patrons. Adding the inheritance left by his late father and the meager dowry his mother-in-law brought, the total barely reached 2,000 taels. After I married in, my mother-in-law put me in charge of the household, yet their expenses suddenly skyrocketed. It was blatantly clear they wanted me to use my dowry to support their entire household. If they wanted a divorce, they couldn't blame me for demanding my money back with interest. Zhao Hanzhou pointed at me furiously. "Xia Yun, Don't even dream of getting 10,000 taels. If you refuse the divorce, I'll beat drums and gongs proclaiming your disobedience to your mother-in-law. When your reputation is ruined, you'll drag your father down too. Mother-in-law's eyes darted about before she promptly plopped down on the floor, slapping her thigh and wailing. My daughter-in-law is so unfilial. I can't go on living. Just as Zhao Hanzhou stood smugly waiting for my surrender, a cold chuckle echoed from outside. The Zhao household sure is lively. With that, a stern, brooding young man strode in, hands clasped behind his back. Towering in stature, he wore a robe embroidered with 9-clawed dragons, its chest adorned with a lifelike qilin. My father followed cautiously behind him, his eyes brimming with reverence. Seeing the newcomer, I felt a momentary daze, my heart pounding wildly. When Jiukong glanced at the old woman on the floor, then let his gaze sweep lightly over me. During today's inspection, I happened to hear that Captain Xia had requested leave. I decided to come along and see for myself, only to witness such a reversal of truth and falsehood. His dark, piercing eyes fixed on Zhao Hanzhou's face. Humph. Mr. Zhao, your methods for tarnishing reputations truly set an exemplary standard among scholars. Zhao Hanzhou's complexion drained inch by inch, his legs trembling uncontrollably. Commander of the 9 Gates. Lord One. Please, let me explain. When Jiukong waved his hand, no one dared utter another word. Even the mother-in-law who had been throwing a tantrum moments ago now hunched her shoulders, as if choked by an invisible hand. When Jiukong's reputation for ferocity was well known, and as a trusted confidant of the late emperor, no one dared act out of line in his presence. It was my mother who was best friends with Lady Wen. And I even lived in the Wen family's villa for half a year during my childhood. But after both my mother and Lady Wen passed away from illness, our families gradually lost touch. As when Jiukong gained the late emperor's favor, becoming his most trusted blade, he severed ties with everyone. After I saved the new emperor in my past life, rumors spread that when Jiukong was part of the deposed crown prince's faction, and that he personally orchestrated the assassination attempt at the palace banquet. In the end, he perished in the new emperor's purge. Just as I was lost in thought, when Jiukong's voice sounded above me. Does Lady Xia harbor thoughts of divorce? I can settle this matter for you. I snapped back to reality and looked up to find Wen Jiukong standing directly before me. He was so close that the hem of my skirt brushed against his black leather boots. Glancing at my father, who was signaling me, I quickly curtsied in thanks. Indeed, I do. But in the year I was married to Zhao Hanzhou, I used my dowry to cover the Zhao household's expenses. Not only did they refuse to acknowledge it, they sought to ruin my reputation. Your Excellency. I pouted, looking at Wen Jiukong with hurt eyes. He met my gaze for a moment, then turned to glare at Zhao Hanzhou with fierce anger. You're lying. I never spent a single coin of yours. Don't slander me. Zhao Hanzhou naturally denied it, but when I produced the ledger, he fell silent. It's only 1,000 taels. When Jiukong's deep voice carried anger. If Editor Zhao finds this unreasonable, this official can petition His Majesty in court. Let His Majesty decide. How does that sound? Days later, Zhao Hanzhou scraped together 10,000 taels in silver notes. He tossed them at my feet alongside the divorce papers. His voice cracked with feigned ferocity as he barked, "We are no longer bound by any ties. Get out of the Zhao household immediately." I was supervising servants loading my dowry when my personal maid collected the banknotes. I flashed Zhao Hanzhou a dazzling smile. I was radiant with joy, not a trace of resentment at being cast out. It'll be done immediately. Oh, and dig up the silver fur in the courtyard. Don't forget those 2 pots of Wei Huang either. Mother-in-law, oh, now I should call her Mother Zhao. Watching me load box after box of dowry onto the cart, Mother Zhao nearly shed tears. Clutching her chest, she whispered to herself, "It's fine. Once my son earns his reward for saving the emperor, there'll be treasures galore." 10,000 taels? What's that? That shallow-minded Xia Yun, make sure you cut her off completely. Don't let her come crawling back when she regrets it. I pretended not to catch her mutterings, but inside I scoffed. She was still waiting for her son to save the emperor? This lifetime, I won't wade into that murky water. I don't want Zhao Hanzhou, and I won't save the new emperor. I'll see if, without me, the new emperor can rely on his true dragon's aura to turn danger into safety. And if Zhao Hanzhou can still become a court favorite through his own abilities. The maid helped me into the carriage, but Zhao Hanzhou blocked her. Gritting his teeth, he demanded, "When did you seduce Minister Wen? That he'd risk his neck for you. Well done, Xia Yun, I truly underestimated you." I nearly laughed in anger. How foolish of me, a woman who loved swords in battle, to fall head over heels for Zhao Hanzhou, that pretentious moralist spouting nothing but virtue and righteousness. Pointing my finger at his nose, I spat out each word, spreading rumors about the Nine Gates Inspector? Looks like you've grown tired of your head on your shoulders. Shall I invite Lord Wen back to hear your accusations? Zhao Hanzhou choked, dared not speak further, but ordered servants to watch me, forbidding me to take a single thread from the Zhao household. Just as my carriage was about to exit the Zhao estate gates, chaos erupted outside. Someone rushed to report that something had happened on East Street, completely surrounded by soldiers. My body stiffened as I suddenly remembered, today was the day. The events of my past life were too distant. That assassination attempt had occurred a month before the Mid-Autumn Festival, but I couldn't recall the exact date. And with all the busyness of moving these past days, who had time to think of anything else? I just didn't know. Had the new emperor escaped that peril? I gazed at the leaden sky, sensing a storm was brewing. Lost in thought, I heard Lady Zhao's mocking voice outside the carriage. What a jinx! Trouble follows us even when we step out. Don't use East Street as an excuse to stay put in my house. I snorted softly under my breath. Her son's dream of saving the emperor had already shattered, yet she remained utterly oblivious. I instructed the driver to take a detour home and sent the sharp-witted servant to investigate the situation on East Street. Pulling back the curtain, Zhao Hanzhou and her mother's figures grew smaller and smaller. The fate of dying in the Zhao household had finally been altered by me. As we rounded the northern city walls, a troop of horsemen came rushing toward us. When Zhou Kong, clad in full armor, was clearly returning from the military camp outside the city, I immediately called out to him. Lord Wen, halt! I have urgent matters to discuss. When Zhou Kong paused, swiftly reining in his horse before dismounting and approaching me. His voice carried urgency, his hand gripping the carriage window slightly tighter. A major incident has occurred in the city. Return at once and stay indoors these next few days. Glancing at his waiting men, I leaned close and whispered urgently, the new emperor was attacked while leaving the palace, his fate unknown. Rumors claim you were involved in the deposed crown prince's affair. This journey is perilous beyond measure. You must be extremely cautious. When Zhou Kong's pupils flinched, he showed no doubt in my words, waving his men to escort me home. He gave me one last deep look before turning his horse and the rest of his men toward the camp outside the city. I didn't know if this would change when Zhou Kong's fate, but in that moment, I desperately hoped he would survive. Returning home, I didn't see my father, but I wasn't worried. With Wen Zhou Kong protecting him, father would surely be safe. That night, the sound of hooves and battle cries seemed to echo from within the imperial city, yet within less than the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, all returned to dead silence. I dared not light the lamp, instead huddling under the brocade quilt on my bed. Suddenly, a noise came from outside the window. My hand darted under the pillow for the dagger, and I rolled nimbly off the bed, hiding behind the screen. A single knock sounded softly against the window, followed swiftly by a second, then a third. My breath caught, and my cheeks flushed hot. Back when I lived in the Wen family's villa, when Zhou Kong had moved in too. We were young then, sneaking out at night to catch fireflies together. After all these years, he still remembered our secret signal. I slowly opened the window, and a dark figure leapt inside. The moonlight outside the window was bright, casting an eerie shadow over Wen Zhou Kong's eyes. I caught the scent of blood on him and instinctively took a step forward. He noticed my movement, tugged at his collar, and his stern expression shifted slightly, becoming unnatural. I'm not injured. It's not my blood. I nodded, about to step back, but he swept me into his arms. He lowered his head and whispered, the deposed crown prince lured his majesty out of the palace and gravely wounded him. The Imperial Medical Bureau is helpless, he won't last many days. My body trembled. It was expected, yet still stirred a pang of emotion. Without my intervention to save him, the new emperor's fate was bound to be this. When Jokon lifted a strand of my loose black hair, twisting it around his finger, rumors spread that I colluded with the deposed crown prince, demanding my imprisonment. That very night, the deposed crown prince led an assault on the imperial city, only to be caught red-handed. Had you not warned me, I might well have ended up behind bars. Your Majesty has only one son, still young. The Grand Secretaries debate whether the Empress Dowager should rule behind the curtain or appoint a regent prince. I couldn't catch his final words. His breath tickled my ear, sending a flutter of warmth through me. I shifted uneasily. When Jokon fell silent, his gaze fixed on me. Embarrassed, I instinctively lowered my head. The atmosphere grew inexplicably charged. After speaking, when Jokon leaped out the window and ran off without looking back. Resting my head on my sword, I drifted into a hazy sleep, dreaming one bizarre vision after another. When I awoke at dawn, the city was eerily calm, as if nothing had ever happened. After some thought, I ran to the camp outside the city to look for my father. Not seeing him safe and sound, I couldn't feel at ease. The patrols at the camp were several times more numerous than usual. After giving my name, someone immediately led me into the main military tent. 3 people sat inside. Father smiled the moment he saw me. I ran over and grabbed his arm. Father, are you coming home tonight? I turned to look at the seat of honor. Lord Wynn is here too. Would you like to join us for dinner tonight? I swear, I was just being polite. When Jokon lifted his head from the thick stack of military reports, he glanced at me, then quickly looked away, his ears flushing slightly. His voice was stiff. All right. The moment he spoke, the deputy commander, who had remained silent, stood up in surprise. Lord Wynn, but you were scheduled to inspect the city defenses tonight. When Jokon cut him off, yes, you are to inspect the defenses tonight. You. He shot the deputy a sidelong glance, radiating an indescribable tension. The deputy opened his mouth, then slowly sat back down, swallowing his words. I gave my father an awkward smile and quickly exited the tent. Staying any longer would only invite gossip and tarnish Jokon's reputation. On the way back, the carriage was blocked halfway. Zhao's mother pulled Shen Baoying in front of the vehicle. I looked at them, utterly baffled. We'd agreed to sever all ties with their family. What were they up to now? After a long standoff, neither spoke. Shen Baoying glanced at Zhao's mother and reluctantly said, "A day as husband and wife brings 100 days of affection. You and brother Hanzhou have been married a year, some feelings must remain. Brother Hanzhou worries you're suffering, so he discussed with me bringing you back to the mansion. Once you return to the Zhao residence, that side courtyard will be yours. But don't even think about becoming the main wife, that position is mine." My eyes widened in astonishment. I never expected Zhao Hanzhou to pull such a stunt. He wanted me back as his concubine? What nerve! Seeing my lack of enthusiastic agreement, Mother Zhao snorted coldly in displeasure. What? Have you gone mad with joy? Didn't you hear what Inger just said? Out of consideration for your year of quiet obedience, my son reluctantly permits your return. Once back, you'd better serve the main wife obediently. Dare to lay a hand on anyone again, and don't blame me for selling you off. Their expressions clearly showed reluctance. How could they suddenly be so generous? Just let me go back like this? No conditions? Seeing me ponder, Mrs. Zhao assumed I'd agreed. She immediately lifted her chin. Of course there are conditions. Zhao's mother raised her wrist as if displaying something. I looked over. On her wrist sat a jade bracelet of poor quality, dull and grayish, clearly worthless. Yet she gazed at Shen Baoying beside her with obvious satisfaction. Inger is so considerate, bringing this old woman something decent. Unlike a certain someone. She must have forgotten that the bird's nest and shark's fin she drank daily, the ginseng and deer antlers she consumed, all came from that person's dowry, used to honor her. I treated her like my own mother, yet in my past life, when I was gravely ill, she stood outside my window cursing me. She called me a harbinger of misfortune, ruined their family's feng shui, said I was unworthy of her son, and wished me dead to make way for the new bride. Now a cheap jade bracelet has bought her off? What a clueless fool. My patience wore thin, and I was about to order the driver to move on. Only then did Mother Zhao, fuming, reveal the real reason she'd stopped me. If you wish to return, you must bring back every single piece of your dowry, along with that 10,000 taels silver note. So flaunting her bracelet was a ploy to make me return the silver note myself. Too bad I didn't take the bait. I raised an eyebrow. Looks like the Zhao family's hit rock bottom. No surprise there. Without my dowry, Zhao Hanzhou had to compensate me with all their household assets and now drowns in debt. The family must be scraping by now, regretting kicking me out so hastily. But I recall the matriarch mentioning Zhao Hanzhou's imminent promotion and boundless rewards. 10,000 taels, a mere trifle tossed before you, and you wouldn't even blink? Mentioning Zhao Hanzhou's advancement, Mother Zhao regained her composure. Of course! My son will be favored by the noble, rising to a position second only to the emperor himself. Well, regretting it now? Here's your chance to grovel before the Zhao family again. Don't be so ungrateful. I couldn't be bothered with her nonsense any longer. Snatching the whip from the groom's hand, I lashed out at the two before me. If you're not a useful dog, get out of my way. Have some sense and leave immediately. Zhao's mother and Shen Baoying shrieked and dodged, but several lashes still struck their bodies. You wretch! How dare you strike me? Calm and composed, I pointed at Shen Baoying and Zhao's mother, addressing the gawking crowd. This woman cohabited with Hanlin editor Zhao Hanzhou without a matchmaker, living in the Zhao household without status or recognition. Together with the old woman of the Zhao family, she forced the legitimate wife into divorce. The onlookers murmured among themselves. That seductive look, she must be some brothel girl. Clearly, she's no good. An elder's lack of virtue brings ruin to the whole family. Poor Zhao Hanzhou to have such a mother. Poor? I say that Zhao Hanzhou is the truly wicked one, hiding behind his mother to do his dirty work. Zhao Hanzhou, who had been standing at the back of the crowd, finally stepped forward. Earlier, when his mother and Shen Baoying were struck and humiliated by me, he hadn't intervened. But the moment his own reputation was attacked, he couldn't contain his fury. Xia Yun, you're spouting nonsense. Zhao Hanzhou grabbed Shen Baoying's hand and shouted his defense to the crowd. Our marriage contracts have been matched with the Shen families, the betrothal documents sent to the magistrate's office, and the wedding set for 7 days hence. How dare you call this an illicit affair without a matchmaker? I hadn't expected them to move so swiftly. Upon reflection, the answer became clear. Both sides feared losing a sure thing. Zhao's mother, recalling Shen's imminent reinstatement, dreaded her chosen bride being claimed by another. Meanwhile, the Shen family, now destitute, saw Zhao Hanzhou's interest as a stroke of luck, like a pie falling from the sky. The two families struck a deal instantly. Zhao Hanzhou smoothed his robes and bowed to those around him. This official shall wed in 7 days. I invite you all to my residence to share a cup of celebratory wine. He turned his gaze to me, looking like a rooster that had just won a fight. Xia Yun, I gave you an out, but you refused to take it. There is no place for you in the Zhao family now. A woman divorced from her husband, who would want you? You'll likely spend the rest of your life alone, praying to Buddha. However, if you can produce 20,000 taels of silver and apologize to my mother and Baoying, I might consider it. With that, he burst into loud laughter. Where he got the confidence that I couldn't live without Zhao Hanzhou, that I'd even pay to be his concubine, was beyond me. The mood shifted. The onlookers began pointing and whispering at me. An old scholar on the street spat in my direction. She must be the unfaithful one who got kicked out. Now she turns around and slanders her husband's family. How outrageous! I weighed the horsewhip in my hand, ready to give Zhao Hanzhou a few lashes myself, might as well cement this reputation as an unworthy wife. Before the whip could swing, a cold, deep voice cut through the clamor, clear and distinct. Madame Xia possesses both courage and beauty beyond compare. How could she be without suitors? Though I am but a humble man, I offer 3 letters and 6 rights, seeking to marry Madame Xia as my wife. The crowd parted as when Zhou Kong stepped forward, coming to a halt beside me. Every voice fell silent, as if the street had emptied. His words stunned me into a daze. I knew he might harbor feelings for me, but hearing him declare it publicly felt entirely different. Zhao Hanzhou's eyes blazed with fury and humiliation, clearly accusing me of being fickle and shameless. In his mind, even after our divorce, I should have remained chaste for him. Yet before Wen Jiukong, he dared not utter a word, his face flushing crimson with suppressed rage. When Jiukong pointed at Zhao Hanzhou, "You two stay. Everyone else, disperse." The crowd scattered like a sudden amnesty, vanishing in a rush. That old scholar who'd accused me of being unvirtuous led the stampede, even losing a shoe in his haste. When Jiukong lowered his eyes and gave a cold snort. Editor Zhao has quite the nerve, refusing to bow before this official. Zhao Hanzhou glared fiercely at me standing nearby, as if waiting for me to speak on his behalf. Some people are just that thick-skinned, with an inexplicably inflated sense of self-importance. And he still dared to hope I'd hold on to old feelings for him, save his dignity? What are you staring at me for, Editor Zhao? Kneel. Disrespect is a crime punishable by the rod. Zhao Hanzhou gasped twice, clenched his teeth, and slowly knelt on the ground. Greetings, Lord Wen, commander of the 9 gates. He feared Wen Jiukong, and he hated me for making him lose face. After all, in his eyes, I was merely a discarded wife he had cast aside. How could I dare to step directly over him? But the more miserable he felt, the happier I became. Bending over backwards to please others? I'd had enough of that in my past life. I flashed Wen Jiukong a dazzling smile, speaking with borrowed authority. Why are Lady Zhao and Miss Shen still standing? Have your knees forgotten how to bend? Xia Yun, don't push your luck. Zhao Hanzhou's eyes blazed with fury, yet under Wen Jiukong's icy glare, he tremblingly bowed his head once more. Madame Zhao and Shen Baoying, eyes blazing with fury, were forced to kneel as well. Shen Baoying, feeling humiliated by me, wiped away tears of grievance. Wen Jiukong paid them no mind, instead taking my hand as his hostility dissolved. My uncle said he has matters tonight and sent me to fetch you for supper. I twitched my lips, letting him lead me into the carriage. The carriage was cramped. Wen Jiukong's long legs pressed against my silk skirt. The gauze curtain swayed constantly, tinged with a hint of sensuality. I shifted uncomfortably, trying to distance myself from the heat. You went to great lengths to keep my father from returning home. Wen Jiukong stiffened, clearing his throat before touching his nose. My uncle is devoted to the nation, volunteering to safeguard the military camp. He couldn't spin the tale further, suddenly wrapping his arm around my waist as his scorching breath descended heavily. Zhao Hanzhou hadn't lied. 7 days later, he married. The Zhao family specially sent an invitation, insisting I attend the ceremony. These past days, my father and Zhao Hanzhou's superior had teamed up to torment him relentlessly. Mistakes, scapegoating, reprimands. They'd battered him into a wreck. His standing among colleagues plummeted. Even the janitors at the Hanlin Academy dared to take subtle jabs at him to his face. His invitation to the ceremony was nothing more than an attempt to humiliate me and vent his frustration. It felt like bad luck. But I still decided to attend the spectacle, because Wen Jiukong had told me the new emperor was on his last legs. I needed to witness Zhao Hanzhou lose every advantage he'd gained in his previous life through me, until he had nothing left. Zhao Hanzhou's second grand wedding was pitifully shabby. Even the lanterns hung on the mansion gates were the worn-out ones from my wedding with him a year prior. Zhao Hanzhou had boasted of providing Shen Baoying with an 8-man palanquin, a grand spectacle. Yet the small sedan chair carried in by 2 porters was ragged and tattered, looking as if it might fall apart with 2 more jolts. The surrounding Shen family members, gaunt and sallow, shuffled along feigning excitement, their eyes fixed on the banquet table. Even though the table held only a few griddle cakes and coarse steamed buns, they couldn't help but swallow repeatedly. The fish, chicken, and duck meant to serve as the feast were placed far away in the center, out of reach for anyone. Mother Zhao's face darkened. She swatted away hands reaching for her alms before spotting me watching the spectacle. She forced an expected smile and approached, sizing me up from head to toe. Her lips made a series of tsk sounds. Well, you did show up. Without you, our family's misfortune, the Zhao household is thriving. Hanzhou got married right away. What about you? What's Magistrate Wen's status? He was just talking, toying with you. Before long. Her chatter was cut off by a commotion. Several ruffians, chewing on grass roots, strode through the gate. Zhao Hanzhou swiftly withdrew his hand from the bridal curtain, all joy and excitement vanishing. Furious, he stepped forward to block them. "This is my wedding day. Don't cause trouble. I'll repay that silver, with interest, in due time." The ruffians clearly didn't believe him. They spat their grass stems on the ground and ground them underfoot. "But we've all heard that Magistrate Zhao offended his superiors and might be demoted out of the capital. Once he's gone, how are we supposed to collect our money from him?" The guests exchanged glances and began whispering among themselves. "I've also heard that compiler Zhao made a mistake in a memorial he drafted." Several senior officials took turns reprimanding him. "It seems his official hat is in jeopardy. They say his desk has been moved out to the courtyard. With the autumn wind howling, his days must be rough. No wonder he married a poor family's daughter, his former wife must have abandoned him." Zhao Hanzhou trembled with rage. "All of this is utter nonsense." His mother immediately stepped in front of her son, hands on her hips, shouting angrily, "Who dares spout such nonsense? Mark my words, before long, my son will earn the emperor's favor by saving his majesty's life." Spittle flew as she jabbed her finger at the debt collectors, her fingers blurring into afterimages. A few taels of worthless silver? The Zhao family wouldn't stoop to such trifles. "We'll repay you soon enough. Keep pestering us, and if your master falls on hard times, don't expect my son to help you." Zhao's mother's confident demeanor carried considerable authority, intimidating the guests into repeated apologies. Zhao Hanzhou, head held high, strode back to the wedding sedan chair. Passing by me, he couldn't resist letting out 2 smug snorts. Just as he took Shen Baoying's hand and prepared to bow for the wedding ceremony, someone burst in frantically. "No, it's terrible. His Majesty has been attacked." The hall erupted in chaos. The guests' gazes toward Zhao's mother shifted. Just moments ago, Zhao's mother said he would be honored for saving the emperor. Now his Majesty has truly been attacked. But shouldn't the rescuer be by his Majesty's side? Zhao the compiler is performing his wedding rites, that hardly looks like rescuing the emperor. Could there be some hidden truth behind this? While the guests speculated, Zhao's mother's face darkened to a terrifying pallor. She counted on her fingers, calculating the days. "This doesn't add up. What's going on? Wasn't the assassination supposed to happen at the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet? My son is here now. Who went to save the emperor? Damn it! Who stole my son's glory?" Standing nearby, I nearly laughed out loud as I listened to her mutter to herself. Zhao Hanzhou dropped the crimson wedding ribbon and rushed to his mother's side in 3 strides. "Mother! You said I'd be honored for saving the emperor. I'd rise in rank. Those who looked down on me would see me differently. That fickle slut Xia Yun would regret it. Forget saving the emperor. I can't even see his Majesty now." Zhao's mother drew a sharp breath, as if comforting Zhao Hanzhou, or perhaps herself. "What's there to fear? Since his Majesty was attacked, then everything I experienced in my past life wasn't a dream. Who knows?" She slapped her thigh, her eyes sparkling. "An assassination attempt? Once is as good as twice. Who knows, now might be the perfect moment to save the emperor. The Mid-Autumn banquet will be your true moment to reach the pinnacle." Zhao Hanzhou found his mother's words reasonable. His anxious expression softened as he returned to the center of the hall. He picked up the rein while reassuring the flustered Shen Baoying. "His Majesty will surely be fine. After the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet, it will be my time to be infeft as a prince and appointed as chancellor." He spoke so loudly that several quick-witted individuals immediately began to flatter Zhao Hanzhou. "Minister Zhao must have connections reaching to the heavens. We shall rely on your patronage in the future. His Majesty was attacked, such a grave matter. That Minister Zhao knew of it beforehand. He must have caught the eye of some grand elder. His future is boundless." Even Shen Baoying, forgetting a bride's modesty, lifted a corner of her veil and shot Zhao Hanzhou a coy glance. "To marry my lord is Ing'er's greatest fortune." Zhao Hanzhou laughed wildly, utterly carried away, as if he already held high office and power, his ambitions fully realized. Dong, 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 the imperial city's bell suddenly rang out. The hall, just moments ago filled with laughter and celebration, fell deathly silent. Everyone counted the tolls, 45 in total. Shen Baoying's crimson veil slipped down, yet she remained oblivious. Zhao Hanzhou stood frozen, his mouth agape. Zhao's mother collapsed to the floor, trembling like a withered leaf in the wind. How could this be? How is this possible? His Majesty. His Majesty has passed away. The 3-year-old prince ascended the throne, with the Empress Dowager ruling from behind the curtain. When Jiukong, besides commanding the 5 great garrisons and the imperial guards, was additionally infeft as the Marquis of Wuan, a hereditary title to last for generations. 100 days later, he sent a matchmaker to formally propose marriage to my family. The commander of the 9 gates actually sought to marry a woman who had been divorced. When word of this spread, the entire capital was in an uproar. That night, counting the thick stack of silver notes while watching Wen Jiukong lying on my bed, grinning like an idiot, I felt utterly satisfied. What man could be more important than money? I gave Wen Jiukong's cheek a playful slap and teased, Lord Wen, the icy-faced Lord of Death, if anyone saw you looking this utterly lost right now, their jaws would drop in shock. Wen Jiukong stared at me intently. Just as I was about to push him off the bed, he rolled over and pinned me beneath him. Without a word, he tore open his own robe and ripped my undershirt with his teeth. I braced myself, my slender fingers clenching into fists with each of his movements. Until the first light touched the horizon. I slept until late morning, long after Wen Jiukong had left for his camp rounds. The maid informed me someone had waited in the front hall for 2 hours. Gritting my teeth against the aching soreness, I groomed myself and went to receive the visitor. Before even entering the hall, I heard the voices of Zhao Hanzhou and his mother arguing. Xia Yun. Xia Yun's father has been instrumental in advancing my career. If you hadn't claimed I'd earned merit for saving the emperor and predicted the Shen family's rise, I never would have divorced Xia Yun. Now that His Majesty, the late emperor, has passed, who am I supposed to save? Zhao's mother's voice trembled with tears as she defended herself. This isn't my fault. The late emperor's assassination was real. That minister's concubine giving birth to a daughter was real. Something must have gone wrong, altering the events of my past life. Yes. It's definitely because you divorced Xia Yun and married Shen Baoying. In my previous life, you never divorced her. She died of illness in our Zhao family. Zhao Hanzhou paced back and forth, his frustration palpable. What does that have to do with saving the emperor? Instead of dwelling on some past life, we should figure out what to do now. I've offended my superiors, I'm deep in debt, and even Shen Baoying is demanding to return to the Shen family. Just as Zhao Hanzhou was about to continue his rant, he looked up and saw me. Ah Yun. His voice was rich and resonant, filled with what seemed like deep affection, making me shiver violently. He called out, lunging forward to embrace me, only to be firmly held back by my maid. Unable to reach me, Zhao Hanzhou could only wring his hands in supplication. My dear Yun, I was utterly bewitched, listening to my mother's foolish words. I ruined your reputation, made you despised by all. I cut him off without mercy. Editor Zhao, you exaggerate. I am now the betrothed wife of Magistrate Wen. Every lady in the capital envies me. How could my reputation be ruined? How could I be despised? Zhao Hanzhou's deep affection froze on his face before it could fully melt. Ignoring my words, he continued his performance of profound devotion. Yun, stop this. Let's go home now, will you? I know you still care for me, otherwise, you wouldn't have attended my wedding ceremony. You've always been in my heart. Without you, I cannot sleep at night. Yes, you must be concerned about Shen Baoying. Rest assured, she's merely a concubine. You are the legitimate wife. No one can ever surpass you. His shamelessness disgusted me to the core. Frowning, I prepared to send him away. Seeing my refusal, Mother Zhao stepped in to plead. Though she called it pleading, her words dripped with condescension. You and Magistrate Wen have that ambiguous relationship. Our Hanzhou family has overlooked it, how dare you still act so haughtily? You'd best return obediently with Hanzhou. From now on, you'll stay within the manor, tending to your husband and raising children. Don't you dare step outside again. Our Zhao family is a respectable household, we absolutely cannot tarnish our reputation. Sometimes, when speechless, one truly does laugh. How is it that I recall the last time you asked me to return, it was to be a concubine? And you said Shen Baoying was the legitimate wife, telling me to serve her well? Zhao Hanzhou, seeing my displeased expression, quickly interjected on my behalf. Mother, you're mistaken. Ayun is both beautiful and kind-hearted. How could she possibly tarnish our family's reputation? Besides, those were just words spoken in anger back then. They shouldn't be taken seriously. You are the rightful matriarch of the Zhao household. From now on, you will manage my inner quarters. All matters of clothing, food, housing, and daily life will be entrusted to you. After you left, the household descended into chaos. He tried desperately to coax me, preparing to take me back and continue exploiting me. Ayun, I've wronged you. Come back with me. Both mother and I long for your return. Zhao Hanzhou wiped his face, his eyes reddening, and he did manage to look somewhat pitiful. He pulled open his robe, revealing a thin undershirt beneath. Quickly, ask father-in-law to put in a good word for me. Lately, someone has been targeting me, making me copy books in the courtyard. The wind was so strong, I nearly caught a chill. It seemed he couldn't endure a single day of being penniless and ostracized. But what did any of this have to do with me? A commotion erupted outside the door. Shen Baoying shoved aside two maidservants and burst in. Zhao Hanzhou! What are you doing here? Zhao Hanzhou's pitiful expression turned to displeasure at the sight of Shen Baoying. What are you doing here? I only feel guilty toward Ayun. It was my stubbornness that ruined her reputation, I must make amends. Shen Baoying grabbed Zhao Hanzhou's sleeve, her voice sharp. Last time you told me, just get her money back and you wouldn't want her back. Now you actually want her to return? And you talk about compensating her? She took 10,000 taels of silver from you. What else could you possibly owe her? I say, you're still hung up on her. You even want to demote me from wife to concubine? Let me tell you, don't even think about it. It's either her or me, both can't coexist. Zhao Hanzhou angrily flung his sleeve, sending Shen Baoying stumbling backward. Who I bring back to the manor is none of your business. You used to be so well-mannered, why are you being so unreasonable now? I covered the corner of my mouth with my handkerchief to stifle a sneer. This little drama was quite entertaining. Utterly unreasonable? How familiar that phrase sounded. Wasn't this exactly what he'd used to accuse me when he abandoned me? Truly, karma comes full circle, heaven spares no one. I'm unreasonable? Weren't you the one begging to marry me? You said you didn't love Xia Yun, that you had no ties to her. Did you deceive me back then? They traded barbs, on the verge of brawling right in my home. I spoke up at the perfect moment, allowing me to return to the Zhao residence isn't impossible, but... Madame Zhao cut in, displeased, we came personally to invite you back. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Zhao Hanzhou shoved Shen Baoying away, who was clinging to him, and pounded his chest in assurance. As long as you sever ties with Magistrate Wen, name your terms. If you're willing to return, I'll grant any compensation you desire. Compensation? But the Zhao family now probably couldn't even scrape together 10 taels of silver. I waved my hand, signaling for the betrothal gifts sent by Wen Jiukong to be brought in. Neatly stacked silver ingots filled over a dozen large chests. Jewels and ornaments filled the entire courtyard, including a massive night pearl, a tribute from foreign lands. Most conspicuous in the center stood 2 live geese. My father had ordered them well-fed, they were twice as plump as when delivered, their cries booming. When Jiukong had personally shot them. As more items were carried in, Zhao Hanzhou and his mother's expressions darkened. They had assumed Wen Jiukong was merely going through the motions, perhaps to ease the Empress Dowager and the young emperor's suspicions, by casually marrying the divorced daughter of a 5th-rank official. But the dazzling array of betrothal gifts left them utterly dumbfounded. Anyone could see how deeply Wen Jiukong valued me. This can't be. Has Lord Wen lost his mind? I tapped the gifts and addressed the Zhao family. If you can produce an identical set, I'll return with you immediately. How about that? Zhao Hanzhou and his mother, dragging the envious Shen Baoying, slunk away in disgrace. To ensure my remarriage faced no censure, Wen Jiukong personally sought an imperial decree of marriage from the young emperor. On the day of our grand wedding, the young emperor specially permitted him to use the ceremonial procession of a prince. He rode a majestic steed to greet me, escorting my 8-person palanquin as we circled the imperial city 3 times. Firecrackers crackled, and copper coins were scattered along the entire route. As we passed the Zhao residence, Wen Jiukong deliberately had the palanquin bearers pause for a moment. The fearsome commander of the 9 gates, it seemed, had a petty streak after all. I tapped lightly on the window, and his voice came immediately from outside. "A Yun?" I whispered to him, "For that worthless man, aren't you afraid of delaying our auspicious hour?" Wen Jiukong snorted coldly. "I just want him to see clearly, so he won't bother you again in the future." It turned out Wen Jiukong had learned about Zhao Hanzhou and his mother coming to find me that day. I didn't let Wen Jiukong act, or Zhao Hanzhou's grave would have been overgrown with weeds by now. Wen Jiukong was displeased, but I didn't want Zhao Hanzhou to escape with death. What good is death? I wanted him and his mother to suffer worse than death. Everything unfolded as I wished. Zhao Hanzhou and Shen Baoying lived in utter chaos. After returning home, Zhao's mother pondered long and hard. She concluded that marrying Shen Baoying had delayed the rescue mission, costing her precious son the chance to be enfeoffed as a marquis and appointed chancellor. Originally, she had hesitated, fearing the Shen family might soon rise again. But day after day passed without any sign of their revival, while the Shens came begging for handouts daily. Zhao's mother could endure it no longer and began to torment Shen Baoying. The Zhao household dismissed all the maids and servants, piling every dirty and exhausting chore onto Shen Baoying. Their once mother-daughter closeness now seemed like a mirage. Zhao Hanzhou owed a mountain of silver. If not for his official position, creditors would never have let him off scot-free. But the debt had to be repaid. The moment Zhao Hanzhou received his monthly salary, he had to hand over 90% of it to repay debts. Interest compounded relentlessly. That 90% wasn't even enough to cover the interest, let alone the principal. Their life descended into utter chaos. Zhao Hanzhou and Shen Baoying had countless arguments over it. Starved and poorly clothed, burdened by hardship and humiliation, Shen Baoying miscarried. In this lifetime, Zhao Hanzhou's most cherished eldest son never even got the chance to be born. The Shen family raised a fuss. Zhao Hanzhou was reported by a censor, compounded by my father's covert sabotage. He was demoted 2 ranks, landing a menial clerical post in the Hanlin Academy. The once promising young star of the Hanlin Academy now endured nothing but scorn and cold shoulders. As the sedan chair was lifted once more, the gates of the Zhao residence swung open. 3 figures emerged, tangled in a violent struggle. Madame Zhao's face was sallow and gaunt, her patched garments flapping loosely about her. She yanked Shen Baoying's hair, cursing viciously, "You shameless little slut, daring to steal my things. You unlucky harbinger of doom, if you don't hand it over, I'll report you to the magistrate's office. It's all your parents' fault for causing trouble, ruining my son's career. Your Shen family must take responsibility." Shen Baoying's hair was disheveled, streaks of blood smeared her face, yet she refused to back down, sinking her teeth into Zhao's mother's wrist. "You damned old hag! What promises did you make me back then? You said marrying your son would bring me wealth and honor, that you'd even petition for an imperial decree for me. But after I married into your family, your home was bare as a church mouse. We couldn't even get a full meal. I'd rather be a concubine to a wealthy merchant than sink to this." Neither would yield, until Zhao Hanzhou finally slapped his mother across the face. Zhao's mother staggered, tumbling to the ground. She clutched her face in disbelief, staring blankly at her son. Zhao Hanzhou seemed aged by a decade. His gaunt fingers pointed at his mother. "How dare you make a scene? If not for you, insisting you'd been reborn, claiming my rescue of the emperor would bring me rapid promotion, and forcing me to divorce Xie Yun, how could I have ended up this wretched and destitute? You're the one who ruined me." He laid all the blame squarely on his mother, completely forgetting how joyful he'd been when he first held Shen Baoying. Selfish people are always like this. I didn't even need to lift a finger, they'd tear each other apart until blood flowed freely. The sound of gongs and drums snapped their attention. They finally realized they were blocking the path of the wedding procession. They saw Wen Jiukong seated high upon his horse, flanked by the 8-man palanquin symbolizing his honor and prestige. A whirlwind of emotions flashed through Zhao Hanzhou's eyes: rage, jealousy, embarrassment. All tangled together. Gritting his teeth as if steeled in resolve, he knelt before Wen Jiukong. "Your Excellency Wen, you are the inspector of the 9 gates, now also enfeoffed as the Marquis of Wuan. Second only to the Emperor, you stand above all others in glory. What woman could you not have? I beg you, return my wife to me." The drumming and music halted, and the people picking up coins straightened their backs. I lifted a corner of the sedan curtain, gazing at Wen Jiukong's calm profile. But I knew clearly, he was furious. His hand reached for the sword at his waist. I had the sedan lowered and stepped out. Wen Jiukong immediately dismounted and took my hand. I asked him to lift my veil, but the wedding maid protested it was against custom. Wen Jiukong didn't care, and neither did I. The crimson veil fell. I met the gazes from all sides and looked down at Zhao Hanzhou. "Lord Zhao, have you forgotten? We are already divorced, and the records are filed at the prefectural office. I am not your wife, Zhao. Your wife stands right beside your mother, does she not? You were permitted to take a new wife, yet I am forbidden to marry a new husband? Now, by kneeling thus, are you seeking to humiliate Lord Wen? Forgive my boldness, Lord Zhao, but look upon yourself. In what way can you possibly compare to Lord Wen?" I turned to re-enter the palanquin, but remembered something and glanced back with a smile. Oh, right. My marriage to my husband was bestowed by His Majesty himself. If Lord Zhao has any grievances, he may go strike the drum of petitions at the imperial city gates. The drum and music sounded again, bypassing Zhao Hanzhou and proceeding with fanfare toward the Wen residence. My barrage of counter-questions left Zhao Hanzhou speechless. He dared not answer. He could only kneel awkwardly amid the red firecracker debris, frozen in place. In the distance, children played and chattered. "The bride is so beautiful, like a fairy sister descended from heaven. I'll be the bride this time. Then I'll be the groom riding the big horse." The last time I saw Zhao Hanzhou was when I was 6 months pregnant. A group of maids and matrons surrounded me as we selected jade bracelets at the finest jewelry shop in Jingqing. Outside the door, a ragged figure haggled with the shopkeeper. He held a dusty jade bracelet that looked vaguely familiar. It suddenly dawned on me, this was the very bracelet Zhao's mother had once flaunted to me, claiming Shen Baoying had specially purchased it for her. The shopkeeper glanced at the bracelet twice, saw little profit in it, and dismissed it with indifference. "We don't deal in such shoddy trinkets," a sharp-witted young maid whispered in my ear. He was dismissed from office months ago for accepting bribes. With the high cost of living in the capital, he's preparing to move back to his hometown. But that wasn't all. Shen Baoying had absconded with the Zhao family's last remaining wealth, running off with a peddler. Zhao Hanzhou, consumed by resentment, took out his anger on his mother. When debt collectors came calling, he shoved his mother out the door. The old woman had both legs broken. Finally, they couldn't survive in the capital any longer. I had someone deliver 10 taels of silver to Zhao Hanzhou. He thanked me profusely, weeping bitterly. Many praised my kindness. Some even called me virtuous. Kind? Virtuous? They didn't know I'd been waiting for this day for a long time. Soon after, I had word spread about Zhao Hanzhou receiving 10 taels of silver. Before the ox guard hired by the Zhao family could even leave the city outskirts, it was ambushed by bandits. He and his mother were hacked beyond recognition. Upon hearing the news, I sipped sour plum soup with satisfaction, then nestled into Wen Jiukong's embrace and fell into a deep sleep. End.